Friends, I just went back in time 41 years. I am not even kidding. Stick around and let me tell you exactly what just happened. Hey everybody, thank you so much for being here at EBN. Today is a crazy day. I mean, this is insane, literally what just happened to me today. It's about Star Wars. It's about toys. And it's about me going back 41 years. And spoiler alert, I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there, not trying to be weird or anything, but, you know, my mother and father, they have passed away, and I could literally feel my mother smiling down on me today. It's just best if I just tell you the story. Sometime in 1984, when Coach was about 4 or 5 years old, I go to Walmart with my mother. This is back in the day where your parents would drop you off at the toy section, not the toy aisle, the toy section, because there would be 7 aisles of toys back in my day. And my parents would literally leave me there. Maybe they were hoping somebody else got me. I don't know. I'm just kidding. You didn't even have to think about that kind of thing really back during that time. I mean, of course, bad things happen, but I digress. So my mother dropped me off at the toy section in 1984 at our local Walmart. And I'm walking up and down the aisles, and I knew that my mother was going to let me get one action figure, one toy. I wasn't looking at anything huge, because the answer would be no. I knew I could get one figure. And basically, every time my mother took me to Walmart or Target or Toys R Us or whatever, I knew I'm going to leave there with one because, man, I could pull on those guilt trip strings so hard and got her, like every single time. Thank you, Mom, for buying me all those toys. So anyways, my mother was going to let me buy one action figure, and I'm walking up and down the aisle, and by default, I go to my favorite. I'm really looking at all the G.I. Joes. I remember just probably a couple of weeks before this, I got a Storm Shadow. It was my first G.I. Joe figure that I ever purchased off the peg. Storm Shadow was my very first. I'm looking at Transformers. I see Bumblebee right there. He's affordable. I can get him. I love Bumblebee. But I go with my heart. And my heart was vintage Kenner Star Wars toys. Now, this is where the story gets kind of weird. I can pick any figure I want. I know what you're thinking, right? Luke Jedi, maybe. Darth Vader, if you don't already have him, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many choices that you could go with. And don't forget that every single figure that had came out prior in the Star Wars line and the Empire line was all released on Return of the Jedi card backs. So anything I didn't have was still sitting there looking at me on the toy aisle. Anyways, for some reason, this is who I picked. I decided to go with the Emperor himself. Ladies and gentlemen, I chose the Emperor. I don't know why. He was just speaking to me like, pick me, little boy. Oh, but sorry. I hope you're laughing right now. This is getting weird. So yes, I choose the Emperor. Maybe because he was the ultimate bad character, Darth Vader's boss. I knew I could go home, and I already had the Emperor's Royal Guard. I already had Stormtroopers. I already had Vader. I already had Luke. I could go home and like complete this end scene. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, I literally do go home. After I got the Emperor, my mother walks up to me. She's like, "Is that the one you want?" I'm like, "Yes, ma'am. I want the Emperor. Thank you very much, Mom." So as soon as we get in the car, crack him open. You know, I did not take good care of the card backs, unfortunately. Just rip that sucker right open. He's going to get played with. So anyways, the Emperor, I've got him. First thing I do when I get home, I go home, I sit down, crisscross applesauce, in the middle of the living room floor, got Return of the Jedi popped into the VCR. I am watching Return of the Jedi with my brand new Emperor action figure, and I got all the other figures around me. And I could vividly remember sitting there with a bowl of ravioli. I am eating Chef Boyardee ravioli for dinner.
Thank goodness for Chef Boyardee.
I'm sitting there eating my ravioli, watching Return of the Jedi. I got my new Emperor figure, and I can also remember dropping my Emperor figure into the bowl of ravioli, going, oh crap, pulling him out, and then he had ravioli sauce on his face, and it stayed there for years. It was like way up there, kind of between his head and his cloak. But anyways, so that's the story. Now, how did I go back in time? This is where the story gets kind of crazy for me. Today, my wife and I go shopping, and I go back to the city I am originally from. I don't live there anymore, but I'm not that far away. So that's where we are. And my wife is shopping, and I'm like, all right, I can only like look at these clothes so long. Honey, I'm going to go down here and check out this store. She's like, okay. So I start walking in this shopping center, and I go down to the exact same location that was that Walmart in 1984. It's no longer Walmart. The exact same building, ladies and gentlemen, that Walmart was at, it is now an Ollie's. I've only been to an Ollie's one time. Everybody jokes about, Ollie's has a ton of Riva action figures. It's like a place for the reject toys that aren't being bought by anyone. Well, I go into Ollie's and I see 2 toy aisles completely full. Action figures everywhere from Marvel. They got really cool older stuff like Masters of the Universe. They've got Dungeons and Dragons 40th anniversary. They got some Transformers Studio 86. They've got things from my childhood, Indiana Jones toys, like even with the Kenner logo on them. I see Star Wars figures, and I start looking through the pegs. Man, this is taking me back. And all of a sudden, in the very rear of one of the 7 pegs of vintage Star Wars action figures, I find this guy. I found a 40th anniversary Return of the Jedi Emperor Palpatine.
It is your destiny.
The exact same figure that I had purchased when I was 5 years old, 41 years ago, guys, in the same building. And as I sat there, I couldn't help but think, it feels like my mom is about to turn the corner, to tell me it's time to go or something. I could just feel I can't believe I'm getting emotional about this. I could feel my mother's not like I got more than one. My mother's pleasure, my mother's joy, seeing her son happy. Like it was the strangest, weird, nostalgic feeling. And one of the reasons I have it is because of the love for the toys, ladies and gentlemen. The love of the toys that you grew up with, that never stops and never goes away. It was such a gift to be able to experience that today. I literally walked over to where my wife was at her store, and I started telling her, honey, my mother bought me the Emperor in 1984, and she looks at me kind of funny, when it was Walmart down the street, and I just got this 40th anniversary. It's the same figure. I felt like Mom was there. And my wife just smiled at me so big. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you have experienced something like what I just did today. And if you haven't, I hope that it's forthcoming. I hope that you get to experience the joy that I actually experienced in that moment. And it's pretty much lasted the rest of the day. I knew right there, I have to make a video about this because to me, this is special. Guys, thank you so much for being here at EBN and watching our content. We greatly appreciate it. We'll be live tomorrow night on Thursday. Get ready. See you guys on the next one.